Our next paper is by Dr. Hiro Hirai and Dr. Emi Enomoto. It's good names. Hiro Hirai is currently associated at Radboud University in the Netherlands. Emi Enomoto is an independent scholar. Who has worked extensively on the De Vita of Cardano and has just published a substantial book on the subject. It is in Japanese. Those of you who are ready to read it should do so. Anyway, I fortunately have an interpreter in my own household, and I look forward to making it work. Their paper concerns astrology, dream interpretation, and dreams in Cardano's On My Life.
Yeah. Thank you, Nancy, and thank you, Tony. Also, that paper. Parallel to the important works by Nancy Siraisi and Anthony Grafton on the Milanese physician Gerolamo Cardano, Emi Enomoto has devoted herself to the study of his autobiography since the 1980s. She finally released her book last year with my editorial aid. Our paper is mainly based on her work, endorsed with my interpretation. We happily dedicate this piece to both Professor Siraisi and Professor Grafton. Cardano's autobiography, On My Life, was composed around 1574-75 in the last stage of his life. It was not the first time that he wrote about himself. Cardano described his own writings in his On My books, which is known in at least 4 versions. He also produced several collections of horoscopes. There he included his own, which gave him the ideal occasions to interpret his life and work. Cardano's On My Life can be seen as a final synthesis of his lifetime engagement, search for himself. His autobiography attracted the attention of a generation of readers, and many pages have been devoted to it. Today we would like to focus on its 3 principal features: astrology, dream interpretation, and conversation with the Daemons, or more precisely, conversation with his guardian spirit or genius. Astrology was the crucial element that conditioned Cardano's life and mode of thinking. This is also true for his On My Life. As we will see in what follows, not only its contents, but also its structure were inspired by his art. Explaining his astrological method in Tetrabiblos Book 3, Ptolemy introduced several criteria as the analytical instrument of each person's life. Prenatal factors such as parents and family members, and factors related to birth such as gender, physical appearance, birthplace, and personality. In Tetrabiblos Book 4, he enumerated social factors such as wealth, profession and work, marriage, offspring, friends and enemies, voyages, and death. Cardano published 100 horoscopes of ancient and recent celebrities in 1547 and produced expanded interpretation for 12 of those in 1554. He included his own horoscopes in both collections. He adopted Ptolemy's criteria to analyze the life data of each person. Even its nature is astrological, this activity can also be regarded as the task of a biographer. Let us turn to On My Life. After chapter 1 on his country and ancestors, Cardano explains his own horoscopes in chapter 2. Visibly, most of the astrological matters are condensed there. However, many of the subsequent chapters and their order suggest that he is following Ptolemy's method to describe personality and life events. Let us focus on this astrological structure. Cardano's On My Life is composed of 54 chapters. Its tone changes after chapter 36. The chapters of the first part are relatively short and calmly record Cardano's observations and interpretations. By contrast, the later chapters are longer and contain various literary styles such as dialogue, poetry, case history, dream interpretation, narration of mirabilia, and various types of inventory. The first part can be read like a medical record, while the second part expresses an eloquent and even preachy or sometimes pessimistic tone. A strong resemblance can be observed between the chapter headlines of the first part and Ptolemy's criteria used in reading horoscope. Although Cardano inserted other topics here and there, themes such as parents, physical appearance, health and disease, diet and personality correspond to those of Tetrabiblos Book 3, while themes such as friends and enemies, wealth, religion, and testament reflect Tetrabiblos Book 4. Cardano thus adopted Ptolemy's criteria as a rigorous self-analyzing instrument in writing his autobiography. Despite his unhappy birth and physical appearance, by analyzing his horoscope, he was able to find that he was endowed with a special premonitory capacity. Cardano's On My Life is full of strange events and mysterious phenomena. Belief in signs and presages are mixed with eloquent bragging. References to dream are also scattered throughout its body. During his life, Cardano repeatedly spoke of his dreams and tried to capture their meanings, although he kept rewarming unsolved ones for many years. For him, dreams were also important tools for describing himself and reflecting on his life events. Chapter 37 of Cardano's On My Life contains the interpretation of 5 major dreams. Here we will address the one on celestial spheres. In this dream, Cardano's soul seems to be separated from his body and flies into the sphere of moon. He hears the voice of his father Fazio, who argues that he has been sent by God to protect his son Girolamo. The father's voice adds that his son will stay there for 7,000 years, then go up sphere by sphere to the city of God. Taking the father's ghost or soul as his guardian spirit, Cardano interprets that these celestial spheres correspond to different academic disciplines such as grammar and mathematics. This dream may represent his soul's long voyage toward God. Cardano's principal interest gravitated around a special type of dreams that he believed allowed him to foresee the future. As a physician, he followed Aristotle's and Galen's teaching that ordinary dreams were produced by humors and bodily spirits. He also recognized that the impact of physiological factors on premonitory or future-telling dreams. What is more important here is that, according to Cardano, dreams of the second type were produced by the impact of celestial influences transmitted through physiological spirits. Cardano believed that the interpretation of premonitory dreams was one of the diverse forms of divination, such as medical prognostication, astrology, and prophecy. For him, people with a special capacity of premonition could exercise this art based on astral causality. His teacher Pietro Pomponazzi, in his own Enchantments, written 1520, taught that one should take astral causality working in the order of nature into account for dream interpretation, divination, and magic. Cardano followed his teacher's footsteps in his own Synesian Dreams, published in 1562, which can be seen as an early attempt to understand premonitory dreams as natural phenomena. Many dreams reported by Cardano later on My Life revolved around the theme of his immortal fame. His highest hope was to live beyond death. In other words, that his offspring would perpetuate his life and that his works would continue to be read. Cardano gained the energy to live through appreciating dreams and learning from them because, for him, dream interpretation served as healing or consolation. To his eyes, dreams in sleep and mysterious events in daily life did not belong to different realms of illusion and reality. Dreams and reality echoed mutually, just as heaven and earth formed a unified cosmos by their mutual correspondences. Cardano's personality was thus nourished day and night by such diurnal and nocturnal rhythms. His life could be understood as a unified whole thanks to the interpretation of premonitory dreams that had both healing and consoling virtues. Lonely in Rome, the old Cardano was complaining, as was his habit. Suddenly, he heard a voice. At first, he thought it was that of a daemon. The voice said he used to be his father Fazio, but he had long since cast off his flesh. Cardano believed this and asked for liberation from his misery. The voice told him not to complain about his situation, since he was not as unhappy as he imagined. Rather, he was making himself unhappy. Fazio reminded Cardano of a dream in which, guided by his father's voice, he flew into celestial spheres. After explaining the new levels of cognition gained by losing the flesh, Fazio added that Cardano would become able to understand the mysteries that had remained unsolved. Finally, the voice asked him to celebrate that day as his new birthday and to understand that his dream had come true. This story is recorded in the conversation with his father Fazio, composed at the same period as On My Life. The description of mysterious phenomena and their interpretation in this short piece overlaps with the contents of On My Life. The dialogue with Fazio is based on the dream interpretation we have already examined. The dream about celestial spheres was one of Cardano's favorites. For him, this dream depicted a crucial aspect of his intellectual life. Here, its interpretation is not delivered by Cardano himself, but by Fazio, his father. The son remains anxious and fearful like a spoiled child, while Fazio plays the role of a merciful advisor. Hearing the father's encouragement, the son recovers his peace of mind and thus the power to live. This conversation contains two major elements: dream interpretation and discourse on life's meaning and happiness. Fazio tells his son that scary dreams or thunderstorms and noises heard near the window or in prison were all special signs sent by God and should be celebrated. Despite Fazio's words, Cardano still regrets what he lost and fears other misfortunes to come. Fazio offers him philosophical consolation. Indeed, facing critical life situations, Cardano wrote several consolatory works. His On My Life can be considered his last attempt in this direction, just as in its contemporary conversation with Fazio. The father's voice affirms that happiness does not consist in fortune, but in virtue. Cardano's On My Life itself contains a short dialogue whose interlocutor are indicated as H and S. H is Hieronymus Girolamo, that is Cardano. Although it addresses happiness, whether referring to dreams or signs, after reading the conversation with Fazio, it is tempting to take S as a spirit, or more precisely as Cardano's guardian spirit. As we have already seen, in interpreting the dream of celestial spheres, Cardano concluded that his father's soul was his guardian spirit, because no one showed him more love than his father Fazio. The notion of a guardian spirit is one of the most difficult themes in Cardano's work. In On My Life, he explains guardian spirits in general. I quote, "Attendant or guardian spirits, the Greeks used to call them angels, while it is called spiritus in Latin, are recorded as having favored certain people constantly, as I have noted elsewhere. But they were truly Daemons, although I believe mine to be a good and merciful spirit." End quote. As he compares them with Socrates' daemon, there seems to be no major distinction between spirits and daemons for Cardano. Let us refer to Book 16 of his On the Variety of Things, published in 1557, entirely devoted to daemons. There he asserts that daemons undeniably assisted his father for many years. Cardano also explains his own experience as strong evidence of their existence. For him, the presence of daemons and ghosts or the souls of deceased persons is hard to prove rationally, but can be attested by experience. Communicating with the souls of deceased people provided a branch of magic that was believed to imply the intervention of devils, and was thus regarded as illicit and dangerous. In On My Life, Cardano insisted that he had never practiced it. Such a delicate theme could not be published, all the more so because he had already been suspected of heresy and once imprisoned. Although Cardano found it difficult to provide a coherent explanation of his guardian spirit, he argued that he finally came to understand something about it at the age of 74. I quote, "Because I say the spirit is immaterial, a good derived from God, and indeed what the theologians call a good angel, it truly manifests according to God's will what is to be, and it never errs." End quote. Clearly enough, Cardano thought that this guardian spirit was sent by God and was a proof of God's protection and care on his behalf. That is why he believed that he had a special gift to receive signs coming from God via his guardian spirit. This was his extraordinary capacity of premonition used in dream interpretation. In the conversation with Fazio, Cardano's merciful guardian spirit bore the image of his father. No one made a more crucial impact on Cardano's life and mode of thinking than his father. A noteworthy aspect is Fazio's capacity to communicate with spiritual beings. Cardano inherited from his father the idea that he also had a special tie with those beings. More importantly, the son's guardian spirit incarnated the guise of his beloved father. So this spirit could play the role of personified interlocutor, acting as a real advisor and consoling the son's anxious soul. Reflecting on his life and work through many of his writings, Cardano continued his search for himself. In the conversation with Fazio, he chose the form of a dialogue on happiness with his guardian spirit. Its scope slightly differed from the more complex On My Life. The former was designed as self-consolation, although it used the same dream of celestial spheres. By contrast, Cardano's On My Life combines diverse literary styles inspired by the works of ancient authors such as Ptolemy and Galen. But this treatise is not a patchwork of fragments, since each of its components extracted from his earlier writings was revised from a different perspective. This complex structure tends to confuse modern readers, but once the elusive notion of guardian spirit is taken as the thread that ties these divergent elements together, it is possible to reach a coherent view of it. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you both very much indeed for that very interesting paper. I must say, you gave me a new picture of the dialogue with Fazio. This is really a father and child. First he tells the child not to fuss, then he comforts and tells him everything will be fine. And you know, it is very much a parental, very, very nice. Anyway, thank you very much. Let us now have some brief discussion to this paper, and then we will move on to our respondent, who I'll introduce in a minute.